There is an interview that Hulisani Ravele went and did with 94.7.
You're the one that came here, you tendered your resignation, you told us that you were going.
I did.
And today you are saying it was not your decision.
Me.
What do you mean, ma'am?
Okay.
Which is the station that she used to work for. And I thought it kind of gives more answers to her spiritual journey into abandoning Christian background of a family and going towards African spirituality and the whole ancestral beliefs and the whole nine jazz. So I thought this is quite an interesting one. There's about 5 points I want to point out. Maybe we'll go back to the interview later, maybe. But on this one, I wanna go back to like 5 things. First of all, validation, the subject matter of validation. And if you understand the doctrine that is taught in church and the doctrine of origins of man, you'll see where this particular point is going to come into place. The defined by other people, that comes in there. And if you understand church doctrine, you'll see where that comes in as well. The third one, the indoctrination process. I want you to see how that actually comes about. And ancestors also have a doctrine. That's going to be the 4th point right there. And who gets to make the decisions? And so it's quite an interesting one. And I think let's get into it. And let's start first of all with this particular clip about the decision to leave radio, to go into, to pursue spiritual.
And I sat where you are sitting right now and delivered my last link. And I remember hanging up my headphones and just bursting into tears. I cried. I wailed. And it is because it really wasn't my decision.
Over the last couple of years, you might have noticed that there's even been religions that are doing this thing, that they are making the decisions for people. Ikhala Bafundi is an example of that. They're making the decisions for people. You stop doing this so that you can be spiritual. Stop all your careers. God wants us in these areas so that we are able to bring godly doctrines in the society, live a godly life in society. The spirits, they seek to isolate people. And so that's the first thing. They made the decision for her. So I find it quite interesting when they made the decision. Let's be very clear. The ancestors made the decision for her.
I can still be me without any of this. I can walk away from all of this and still find the truest me and still be as celebrated, as loved, as amazing, as talented. And not to say...
And so much further than what you were initially.
Accurate.
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like. It looked like I can move without your permission. I remember sitting in a mentorship session with someone and they said to me, the problem with radio presenters is that you guys wait for a schedule to tell you where you're going to fit in and what you're going to do next. You wait for a decision to be made for you about what your next career move is going to be. And I remember hearing that and I was like, yeah.
That is very true.
I was like, yeah, no, this var, man, this var. And it's just those many things that start taking shape in you where you move bulele because you trust yourself. You trust yourself, you trust your guides, and you trust your God. No matter what they say you must do.
Now, bear in mind, she says this right after saying that her family was Christian. And so right there, you will note, okay, so this idea of being defined by how the family might know me, or being defined as a radio presenter, or being, I can be that elsewhere. I can completely and be that elsewhere. She takes issues with other people defining her, but when these beings, spirits, appeared to her and told her to leave her job, she was more than willing. So at that point, I had the question, okay, so who gets to make the decision that actually defines your life? Because you seemingly were willing to listen to the spirits, whereas nobody else can define. So I thought that was quite an interesting one. But this also goes with the idea of the indoctrination process of the ancestors.
And trust God and trust us that we will carry you through this season of stillness where there are things that we want you to learn about your ancestry, about the spiritual gifts you possess, about things away from the limelight and the media.
Notice here, the ancestors want to teach. They want to teach you. They have certain things they want you to learn about your ancestry and whatnot and all these things. Now, notice when we went to school and learned high school, university, we were able to have a life that involved everything else in the society. But when you go to this path, somehow you ought to be cut off from everything else. But when we learned being able to interact with everything else. So what is this teaching? It's isolation. You see, isolation creates an environment for indoctrination. And when I say that, you will hear it within the same, with the next point of how do they do that?
Admitting my resignation. Nobody has done anything to me. I am not going anywhere. And that is what people didn't believe the most. When I said, I am not going anywhere, they said, no, which other station are you going to? And I said, no.
Sure.
I'm literally going to sit at home. I'm going to finish the commitments that I had, which were either campaigns or emceeing gigs. And I sat at home. I sat in my house for 3 months doing nothing every single day. Every single day, I sat in silence and just listened.
Sit and you blank your mind. Now, this is a very popular Middle Eastern practice. It's very popular even in the Middle Eastern practice. They'll sit and they'll just kind of like be present and just blank out your mind and things. So this is not a new practice. This idea of sitting and blanking your mind, the Bible doesn't say to do that. This idea of just blank your mind doesn't tell us to do that, because it gets very dangerous. We open the door for outside influence. The Bible states, guard the loins of your mind. The Bible tells us to be on guard on the things that intake or the things that come in. But how do these spirits lure people? They'll tell you to just take whatever, just be empty. And no, but the Bible teaches us to guard so that we don't just get everything. You don't take everything. Okay? The Bible speaks God. They speak open. Can you see a pattern here? Okay? So the process of indoctrination here was stay open, but don't let anybody define you. Don't let anybody point out or kind of like point out what your life is or should be. But the ancestors get to do that, or the spirits that claim to be the ancestors get to do that. I thought that was quite an interesting one. It's part of their indoctrination to sit and just be empty. By the way, in the book of Acts, there was a group of people that Paul came in interaction with, and he said that they sat around to hear new ideas. And that's a dangerous thing. This idea of just sitting around to hear new things. This idea of just sitting and just... So, to be very clear here, the Bible teaches us to control the things that keep going to and fro between our ears and the things that kind of inspire us. But this idea of identifying and not allowing anybody to identify, she even goes as far as saying, it has brought up issues even in...
It's feeling like a celebrity thing now. What's happening? And I was being lumped in with that lot, right? And it was making me doubt that I have this thing. The other part is I come from a family that doesn't do any African spirituality. We grew up in the church.
Sure.
So now for you to be the first, that's like, the underground gang is saying, they're like, excuse me, what? I was called all sorts of things. I have family to this day that have disowned me.
Sure.
I have been demonized, villainized. There is nothing that I have not gone through that you see the woman standing here today being so sure of who she is, and what she is. I'm not defined by anybody else, for anything else, for anyone. Like, I know who I am.
that you have like a little bit of a framing here. So there's family now issues now because now there's that to deal with. There are people who have distanced themselves, not all families. It just means there's certain people that have distanced themselves, right? Okay. So there are certain people that have distanced themselves because now you've chosen to take this particular path. And but the interesting part is this idea of being defined. She continuously goes back to this point a lot. The being defined. And if you think about it, as I mentioned in the intro, if you read the Bible describes mankind. In the next section of what I'm going to play you'll see what is it that is root here. It's Hulisani just could not take Christian doctrine. Like, I want you to just hear her thought. No, she's not saying what she didn't like about Christian doctrine, but listen to the take she has, and then you will see why she just could not take Christian doctrine.
And what changes in you that might not have existed or that you might not have recognized while still on the journey?
The change was plugging into the frequency that did not need validation from anybody else.
Okay.
And validation not from praise, but validation from you are this.
Okay.
Let me break it down. So often we will work for a place or we will be in a space and we will think that all that we are is because of the place. And it's like, no, you're the magic. You're the light. You are the prize. Man.
Yes.
You are the prize.
Yes.
And when you find yourself, especially in an industry that we're in, where one day you're up, one day you're down, you get defined by so much around you. You get defined by, do you have an award, don't you? You get defined by what show you're doing, what show aren't you doing. Yet you know you're good enough to be doing any show.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I was walking the journey and I was doing all the right things, but I was not doing it with a sureness of, I don't need any of this.
Why do I say that? Because the Bible describes us. The Bible directly gets in our face about who we are. That's what the Bible does. Now, if you don't like that, that's a you thing. We're very much comfortable as the Bible describes us, so we know what to work on. You see, so the Bible gets in our face. The Bible tells us off. The Bible tells us when we are getting to errors. Bible tells us not to do whatever we want to do. And so, but if you listen to her, you will hear she wants to do do you understand? She cannot have a person validated. She cannot have a person particularly pointed. She's willing that these spirits point out, quit your job, do this. This is how you're going to get information. Forget about reading the Bible, but we're going to get information like this. And so as a result, it's a specific condition that she is kind of like bringing herself into. This idea then comes up when she now mentions something about validation towards the ending there. And I was like, I see, this is why she could not be Christian.
The message that came was, you're in the right field of work.
Okay.
We just want to plug you into the right channel
Okay.
of your being.
Okay.
So now I understand the platform I've been given. I understand the voice that I've been given. I get why I had to leave all of it so I could remember. I was not rediscovering. I was remembering who I really am and what I am called to do within the industry.
What does plugging into the right channel look like?
And don't get it twisted. That's absolutely sad, because you have to understand the Bible describes us so that we will not deceive ourselves in what we are. She says, you are the star, you are it, it's you, you are amazing, and yes, you can understand why the devil wants us to learn that idea and why he wants us to learn this, why you are learning these things outside, because that's exactly what the devil told himself. That's exactly, I will. That's exactly what Satan, Lucifer, told himself. It's no different. The book doesn't change. It's been the same script. He's still telling it to other people till date. He tells us these things because they're going to sound favorable for us. Because we don't want to be defined. We don't feel like, we don't. What, you're gonna wait for people to define? You're gonna wait for the church to tell you you are a sinner? You're gonna wait for them to tell you that you are not? No, you are approved. You are the star. You are the one. Now, church doesn't have that. If you go into a biblical church, church does not have that. Church, that's not what church is. Church is not here to clap you up. Church here is here to remind you to be a disciple, to follow through. And when I heard this part of the interview, I was like, okay, now I can see why she quit. I can see why she left. Because this could not conform to telling you are amazing. You are wonderful. That's not what the Bible is for. Do you see why churches like Joel Osteen become popular and they stay there? It's because they tell people that exactly. This story here is about God. If you read 1 Corinthians chapter number 3, it says, neither he that plants the seed or the one who waters is anything. We are not the center. We are not the center. And so you can see why her story just could not have God. It had to find a belief system that says, you are the star, you're the center. Now, you'll notice in that audio as well that there comes a part where she's even describing that, after she could now become something else, she could kind of like establish, can become bigger, she can use her talents and all of that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what they do. They want you to turn into the evangelist. So it's exactly the same format. It's the format. They want you to be an evangelist for that. And so I thought it was a very interesting interview because it just kind of gives you an insight on some of these things and on why she left. It kind of like clears the air because it can't just be that, there's a dark side to God. When she said all those things, I don't forget that one. When she said all those things, you're like, okay, she really must have a problem with things. But now you see why. If she's been told she's a sinner, there must be a dark side to God, And so there's all these things that I can see a bit. Okay, I can see why she could not be Christian. I can see why she had these things, and then as she was looking down, it's like, not doing this. Because the Bible really does get in the way and describes you. And if you're not going to be for that, she quit her job to follow the ancestors. She was willing to believe the Mandans over there. So one way or the other, you will have something define you, someone define you somewhere. The question is, which one do you want? But now, at least we have a little bit of a description of what made her exit. Is that she doesn't need the Bible to kind of like come to a point of validating it. She kind of wants to find it a way, or find her own validation. And so some of the reasons why Hulisani Ravele left Christianity. So I thought that was quite an interesting What is Sexuality show. Daily Christian commentary videos. Other episodes down today, they'll be down in the pinned comment. Doctrine is so central. When you hear all these strange things that people say, it comes from somewhere. And sometimes just listening enough will kind of tell you where do they get it, or where do they get these ideas. It is sad, but at the end of the day, people decide what they want to believe. It's Ricky. Tell me your thoughts down in the comment section, and I'll see you on a later on video. Have a blessed evening.